All right, PSYWAR Regiment, how you doing? My name is Jay. Welcome to the first ever PSYWAR Regimental podcast. First ever one done. We've got our first guest here, and this podcast is going to be mainly for the PSYWAR Regiment as a whole, to inform them, to bring them together. We're going to talk about everything from operations to what we're talking about today and the life of a family of a PSYOP soldier. So that brings in our CRC director.
I guess if you want to make me an official
you're a director.
Title.
So I was happy to have you on because they were like, Jay, we want you to do this podcast. And I was like, I'm all about it. What are we talking about? We talking about going overseas? And they're like, no, we need you to talk to these CRC people. I was like, great. Who is that? And then I met you, and I was like, I wish I would have met you 10 years ago in there. I had no idea that you guys existed. No idea about what you guys do. Couldn't even spell CRC back in the day. So we talked for a while yesterday, and Community Resource Coordinator, CRC.
That is me.
And tell us a little bit about what the CRC is and what you're able to offer specifically soft soldiers.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Emma. I'm one of the two CRCs that 4th and 8th PSYOP Regiment has. The other CRC specifically works with the transitions program. So she's handling soldiers that are ETSing, getting chaptered, med boarding, retiring, like any way that you're finding yourself leaving the Army, she helps you with. And she's supplementary to TAP. So soldiers are still going through TAP. It's just that they can go to her for extra resources. And I'm kind of the same thing, but with family programs. So the Army has 1,000,001 programs out there for families.
And we all heard about them,
and 1,000,001 resources. One, it's hard to remember what all is out there, especially when you start factoring in like the amount of nonprofits that exist and external organizations that try to support military families. And so I'm kind of like a resource middleman, and I help families identify what help they might need. If they already know what help they might need, but they just don't know what the point of contact is, then I can get them in contact with the person they need to be in contact with. But
I think we've all set in through 500,000 family briefs. We're sleepy because we haven't slept the night before. A million civilians come in and say, we're going to do all these great things for you. And so you're kind of the point of contact for all of that stuff. You can solve problems from helping soldiers move and get acquainted all the way up to problems they're having in the relationship and finances.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, you know who to go to do all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so I think the main way that we make all of that happen is SOF is really unique in the fact that we get a specific pot of money to be able to provide families with environments and trainings where they can integrate with one another, they can connect with other families, they can work on their communication skills. And so half of my job is connecting families to resources, but the other half of my job is making these events happen. The command teams out at 4th and 8th are really awesome about coming up with ideas for those events, planning those events, but I'm the one that all gets coordinated through. So that way we can make sure that the trainers that we have present for those events are relevant, they're going to be beneficial for the families, and I help coordinate everything. So I'm half party planner, half resource coordinator.
And I'm glad you brought up very soft, specific things.
Yes.
Because both me and you have a colorful background of being prior enlisted in other MOSs.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember back in those days in 2004 when I enlisted in the infantry, and all I would get is, hey, take some Motrin and suck it up and you'll be okay. And now the evolution of SOF investing in their soldiers and investing in their families results into stuff while you're here.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's something very important to highlight, is that the military and SOF as a whole realizes the human investment that they need to put into to make their soldiers the best they can possibly be. And those are very SOF unique capabilities that they have that soldiers would have coming to PSYOP or coming to a SOF branch as a whole, to get access to people like you.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I like when people use the term investment, because that ultimately is what it is, right? The more that we help support families, the more capable our soldiers are going to be able to focus on the mission at hand. I mean, everybody knows if you're having a bad day at home, that's going to in some way affect you. There may be some people it affects less and others more, but to some degree it is going to have an effect on you. And the bigger that problem is, the bigger the effect in the end. So the more that we're able to help mitigate those problems, especially when soldiers are deployed, which is another great thing about me, is I'm here 24/7. So if a family member needs to get in contact with me, they have multiple ways to be able to do that, for starters. But they can do that at any time, regardless of where their spouse is at. And I can help solve an issue without it involving, I don't want to say involving, but like without it distracting from whatever mission or focus the service member has to have in that moment, which is really awesome.
Yeah, sure. And I briefly brought up your background, but I think it's important for the people listening to this to give you some credibility here, that you're not just some college kid that came off of old Georgetown or something and think they can come in here and change all these soft soldiers' lives.
No.
So if you could describe your background and how you got to where you are now, I think that would help out.
Yeah. So I am prior service. I was 14 Hotel, which is an air defense enhanced early warning systems operator.
Wow, that is a
super long name.
Okay.
Basically, I worked with the Patriot missile system. I did my entire career overseas in Asia because of COVID and IPCOTS and COTS that I did. I just kept extending and extending. So I did 7 years all in Asia, which I loved, but I was ready to come back to the States, and I was also ready to move on to something else. I met my husband while I was in, and he's also in SOF. And so that kind of opened the door to all of this for me. I started getting a lot of my educational background that I have now while I was still in. And I focused mainly on psychology, social work, social programs. And the more that I kind of grew in my marriage and leaned into supporting my husband's career, especially when I knew I was going to be transitioning out, the more I realized like how many opportunities SOF presents to their service members and their families. And the more that I was like, okay, I think this is what I want to try to do when I'm out. And so my last year in the Army, I took advantage of some of the transition programs that the Army offers. I got to do an internship working for the garrison with the risk reduction office, and it put me in contact a lot with the CRC that was present in Okinawa, Japan for 1st Battalion for Special Forces. And I just loved what she was doing. I loved the mix between working around the military, but still being present as a support resource for families, not necessarily being limited by as much policy and restriction. I think a lot of the times families' frustrations with family programs is the amount of red tape that exists. And I feel like my position is pretty good at getting around some of that, or not having as much in general. Obviously, any government job is going to have like paperwork and certain left and right limits. But I think like one thing that's unique about my position specifically is if you talk about POTIF, right, which is the preservation of the force and family. And it's the whole program that SOF is trying to use to promote holistic health. You've got 5 pillars. You've got spiritual, physical, cognitive, behavioral, and then social and family. That social and family is just me. But all of those other pillars are kind of limited in their availability to be used by spouses. So if a service member gets a concussion in an airborne accident, they can go and speak to the cognitive domain to make sure that they are able to like better perform again, right? Now, a spouse can be present for those appointments because there might be tasks or like things that the performance specialist says, like, hey, this is what you need to be working on. This is an exercise you need to do. And the service or the spouse can then help the service member with those kinds of things. But let's say that we have a spouse that, I don't know, is super into CrossFit, wants to get a strength and conditioning plan. Our strength and conditioning specialists can't support that. They can't help with that because they already have a bunch of soldiers that they're focusing on. But my position, I'm one of the only ones that anybody can come to me. They don't need their service member with them. They can come to me at any time. They can contact me beforehand. They can literally just show up in my office. I don't need somebody to schedule an appointment or like give me any sort of like forewarning. They're able to just come in, say hi. If they have a problem, they can bring that up to me. But if they literally just want to learn more about what's going on in the unit, I can make that happen. And so it's nice because a lot of the times, I think from the spouse side especially, when you hear about how amazing SOF is compared to the regular Army and like the big Army, it's easy as a spouse to get lost in this idea of like, okay, well, it's great for my service member, but what is it really doing for me? And I think my domain is the biggest proponent for supporting these families, is because it's this added element, this added resource that nobody else has.
Yeah. And it's funny you brought up, like, you got into this late in your career.
Yeah.
I got into this late in my career. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, trying to get the younger soldiers apt on these programs and to come in and talk to you. Because me and my wife were talking last night. We knew we had you coming in. And how we've been doing this for a long time, so it's normal day-to-day life for us. I have to go to an exercise for a month somewhere, or I have to deploy, or you got to do whatever. Okay, fine, sure. She just moves on. But imagine how jarring that would be for the young 20-year-old that just came out of college or has no idea what the military life is like. They just married the love of their life, obviously a PSYOP soldier, and they come to this unit and their PSYOP soldier is traveling, and that's got to be jarring and a huge lifestyle change. And then so correlating those two, that they don't know about these resources, and those are the ones that should know about these resources.
Definitely.
Is exactly why you're here, and we're trying to get people in contact with you as the jack of all trades, which you just mentioned, that you could talk to them just, hey, let's go have a beer and talk about things, or you can really help out with financial problems and all that stuff too.
Oh yeah.
So bringing that into that level of the young soldier that just came in, just found the love of his life, and knowing to come talk to you and as a resource is hugely beneficial.
Oh yeah. And I think even for folks that maybe have been transitioned into PSYOPs later in the game, or like this is just a first duty station for them, one thing that I know from talking with spouses is coming to some of our programs is a great way to find out just what's in the area, to meet other people. I think that a lot of the times you hear about it takes a village when you're raising kids, but I think that the military in general is something that takes a village. Everybody's going to have to deal with a deployment or a TDY at some point. There's the deployment curse, it happens to everybody. Something's going to break, something's going to go wrong. And if you don't have that community to lean back on, it's super isolating. It can be super scary, especially if you don't know a lot about what's going on. And so a lot of what I try to do is provide some visibility to spouses, provide
in
some
a very confusing time for them. They don't know how the Army works. They don't know what's going on.
And the amount of acronyms that get thrown at you.
Exactly.
And so one of the things that I host, if we want to talk about specific events, is spouse in processing. Happens the last Wednesday of every single month without fail. We have food that we provide to the families. It's geared towards spouses, but if service members want to come with as well, just to get more information, they're more than welcome to. But we do everything from breaking down terminology that these spouses are going to hear. So the program that I run is called GHOSTS. It stands for Grow, Heal, Overcome, Support, Train, and Sustain.
Oh, nailed it. Okay, good.
But that's a big acronym in a world full of other acronyms. Sure. And I mean, TDY itself, you have so much going on. And so breaking some of that down, getting them to understand, not only where you can find information, but then explaining what that information actually means. I mean, there's times where even now, having been prior service myself, my husband will show me a calendar that has every, exercise and event that he has going on. And I'm like, wait, what is this again? Which day are you gone fully? And so if I'm having that confusion, I know the other spouses out there are. And so helping them kind of better understand that, but also know that if there is something they don't understand, there's a person that can help them, figure out a way forward or figure out what works, figure out information.
Not just a person either. If you're holding these events and multiple spouses and family members are coming to participate, now you're building a community.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So now it's not just on you. She meets, Susan who's there, who meets Bob who's there, and now they can ask each other questions, and now you're building a community around this.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing you built.
One of the main things that we utilize in order to do a lot of this too is the hub. I gotta plug my app. So basically, about a year ago, USASOC looked at how most SOF elements were communicating with their families and saw that it was through Facebook, which everybody, I mean, love or hate it, it's not the most secure thing. And so they decided that they were going to work to develop some sort of program, some sort of website to be able to make family programs have more secure means to be able to connect with families. And they created Teamworks. We call it the Hub, which is just another term for it. But if you look on the App Store for it, it's going to be called Teamworks. If you look it up online, it's going to be called Teamworks. We just refer to it as the Hub sometimes.
TEAMWRORKS?
Yes,
Teamworks?
that's it.
Okay.
And my one kind of like sparkly, shiny thing about it, cool thing about it is it's actually used by the NFL teams. So I don't know if anybody out there knows the term WAGs, but it's wives and girlfriends. And I think as we go more into the social media age, like it's not just the players anymore on, NFL teams that are famous, but their spouses are too. And they need to have secure means of being able to know where to be, when to be on game day for, team events, that kind of stuff. And so the NFL uses this in order to support some of their teams, which is awesome for me. I get to have some really cool meetings. I had a meeting last week with the Miami Dolphins to talk about how they utilize this resource. And one of the things that I talked about in my meeting with them and that I think would be a super awesome way for us to move forward is obviously if you register for this app, you register for the website, you're going to be put into your battalion's group. You'll be able to see other people in there, but you'll be put into your battalion's group. There's other entities that utilize this platform that are able to create like subgroups of like interests or needs. So like a good example that got used was everybody who homeschools their kids that needs to be able to share resources or like wants their kids to be able to have that socialization, but they don't know who else to reach out to. They're worried about like, oh, well, other people will, raise an eyebrow at the fact that I homeschool my kids. This automatically gives them access to another group, another, community where it's the same thing. Same with maybe like dual military folks, people who experience like a different type of stressor with being the duality of, a SOF spouse and possibly also SOF or just a service member in general. And so we are able to create like so many levels of connection and community. And I think that that's so important because not only then for the spouses does that benefit them having people that they can like truly, truly relate to, but having so many different elements where they can, like you said, not just feel like I'm a 1-point failure of like, oh, well, I couldn't catch Emma today or she wasn't at this event. There's going to be so many other people out there that are knowledgeable and can help them.
So we talked at the beginning of this about how, all the family services that SOF offers and everybody that's redeployed is set through 2 days of people moving in and out. And here I am trying to convince people that you're different and your stuff's not the cheesy stuff.
Yeah.
And your stuff is actually going to help people out. So I told you yesterday I was going to hold you to some specific examples of some not so cheesy things that the younger soldiers can come and benefit from experiences with you. Yeah.
Okay. So the biggest thing is I'm going to say a good 90% of our events are not death by PowerPoint. There's going to be a training element to everything that we do because that's one of the red tape things that, there's just no way around. But training is a pretty loose term. If you're learning a new skill, to me, that's training. If you're walking away with some sort of knowledge and education gain, you've been trained.
Trust me, as a guy that goes on TDY for training a lot, I know what you're talking about.
So, like one of the events, I'll talk about a past event, and then I'll talk about one we're trying to do in the future. One of the first events that we got to execute when I first got out here was ziplining. Now our guidance is that events need to be 50% training. So, for every hour of fun, there needs to be an hour of training. And that can get really dicey really fast for some families, especially when we're including kids, and most of people's kids are younger. Getting your kid to sit through that can be a reason alone that families are like, well, I don't want to go to this because I don't know if our like toddler is going to be able to sit through this. But when I talk about that like interactive training piece, are you walking away with like a new skill? Our ziplining event, we were able to say, hey, we're going to have like a 15-minute dedicated time sitting down beforehand to talk about what's about to happen, to talk about some of the resources that exist that are present today. And then we're going to have 15 minutes at the end to close out. But the entirety of the event itself is considered training because you're actively having to work through like team building and communication and like working with others. And like overcoming fears. Like there's so many different like levels and elements that you can throw into so many of these trainings and activities. And the biggest thing is like they're all free. So like if you come and you find that it's not your cup of tea, there's no loss right there because
no
you've
cost
gotten
to the soldier.
no cost to the soldier whatsoever for the event, for the food, for a lot of the times we have extra food. Like you're completely covered. And I want soldiers to be able to have that buy-in because I think FOMO is a really powerful thing in the Army. And so my ultimate goal is to have events where, you know, it's Monday and, you know, Private Joe was talking to Private Smith and Private Smith's like, yeah, this weekend I went out and I got to do this super cool thing. And Private Joe's like, wait, what? How did I not know about this? And then we have more and more people coming.
We would call that a grassroots influence campaign
Yes.
in the PSYOP world. Wink, wink. There.
So one of the future events I'm trying to do, going towards the holidays, thinking about like what is it that families actually need during the holidays? What is it about the holidays that's rough that I can help support? The holidays are a crazy time. You've got, you know, family probably coming in that you may not, you know, see eye to eye with.
And maybe it's soldiers' first time away from family.
That is also
They just
true.
got to the regiment. They just got in the Army.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't have the leave to go home yet, right? They've only got 5 days
Yep.
of leave. They can't burn it.
Yep.
So first time away from home.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so like just so many things that can be going on. But I think like time, honestly, people think that the holidays, because of like HBL and like kind of a drop in op tempo, that it becomes easy and you have all this time on your hands. You never have time on your hands. It's just one of the things with the military is there's always going to be something that's making you busy. And if it's not work, it probably is home. But I want to find ways to support those, you know, changes. And so for one of the seasonal resiliency events I'm trying to do for this first quarter of this fiscal year is a training event focusing on communication skills that you can utilize during the holidays, right? Just understanding how to navigate some of those like harder relationships that you have to face when it is the holidays, whether that be like an internal conversation because you are having to realize, you know, like, oh, I'm not going home and I'm going to be spending a little bit of time with myself over the holidays and like learning how to cope with that. But also like my mother-in-law's in town and I don't really like her, but I also don't want to piss off my wife. So like, how do I keep the peace at home?
No, I never have that problem. Never, ever have
Totally
that
unique
problem.
experience.
Never. Okay.
But so we're going to do a little bit of training on that. But the idea is going to be that this is going to be one of those like, I don't want to say interactive trainings, but like immediate implementation trainings. So families are going to come, they're going to sit, hear about, you know, all of this different stuff, all these different skills. And then rather than being like, okay, and then for the next hour or 2 hours, you know, you're signing up to do this. The idea is it's going to be you're signing up to do whatever it is that you need to accomplish. We are going to give you skills to be able to work through stressors, skills to work through problems that you're probably facing right then and there in life. And we're going to have childcare. So that way, you're going to go through this training. And then if you decide like, well, we still haven't done our Christmas shopping and it's hard to go shopping with kids, you can go out and do your Christmas shopping. If you just feel like you haven't had a chance to connect with your spouse in a while because there's just been a lot going on, you guys can go out to lunch. And implement those, you know, trainings that you just got. Work on those communication skills right then and there without it being in an environment with people you might not know or doing an activity that you might not be comfortable with. Yeah, you're just on your own implementing things by yourself.
And the last thing I'm going to hit you up on here, because I think you could be an assistant S3's best friend, right? Every battalion has some poor captain sitting there, some assistant S3 that is tasked with doing reintegration things and doing planning events for soldiers coming back or deploying or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. It is important to know that, yes, you've talked about a couple of events that you own, you plan, but these assistant S3s can come to you and get creative and plan their own events.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't cost the battalion anything.
Literally, yeah.
You can pay for it all within certain parameters, but you could plan everything. And the assistant S3 could take all the credit for the work you've done. So,
if you need to know ER bullet.
Yeah. Talk about some of that stuff, some of the creativity of these battalions coming to you about events.
So, like, one of the things you mentioned was, you know, like reintegration, right? The op tempo out here is it's consistent. Mm-hmm. It's ongoing. And so
the highest is off, you know, no big deal.
We help with not only reintegration after deployments, but pre-deployment events. So connecting with your family before you even leave, and then also helping get connected to them again when you come back. Those are events that every single battalion has access to multiple times a year. they need to identify when they want those to happen. But other than that, they come to me with the, time frame of like, hey, this is when we want to execute this. They come to me with what training they're trying to accomplish and like an idea of what they want to be doing. And then I help make it happen. And it doesn't have
to be that, hey, everybody in a classroom,
no.
Emma's going to give us these PowerPoints. It can be
rock climbing, zip lining, paintball. We've talked about doing whitewater rafting. Like, literally, my biggest parameters, it has to be within 250 miles. But I mean, that includes Raleigh, where it almost includes. I looked up the other day because I was wondering how far we are from the Great Smokies. That's like, I think 270 miles. So we're like just shy.
It's a rounding area.
But that means like Charlotte. We can go all the way out to Charlotte for these events. And we can cover food, we can cover childcare, we can cover, if we want to have like a guest trainer come out to do like speaking at one of these things, we can cover that. There's so many different ways that we can make these trainings, these, reintegration events so like gravitating for families. And I think that a lot of the times the military is pretty great at setting so many limits that it kind of shuts down some of the creativity when it comes to family programs, right? Like, there's so many limits on like what can happen. Well,
yeah, it depends. Limits on funding, where it's coming from. But you guys don't have that because your money is coming from somewhere completely different than where the normal unit funds would come from.
Exactly.
So you guys don't have to fall into those same restrictions.
And there's no, like, I always have laughed about, like flower cup funds and stuff, because in the end, you're like paying your way for things to happen for you, and that's great. That has its place, but free is the best, word there is. If you can get access to something and have a meal provided to you and not have to invest anything other than your time, like,
not just
that's
free,
the best.
That's free man hours that you're providing also that, dumb Jay Wigington doesn't have to plan these events. I can come to you and who has multitude of experience of knows where to go, where the best venues are, and I could just turn over my good ideas to you. And you plan them for me.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, I take the credit and I get my OER bullet out of it. So it's great. A great win-win all around.
Oh, yeah.
So, Emma, how can people, if they're interested in come and talk to you, where are you? What do you have a phone number? Do you have an email? What's the best ways to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my office is in the Wellness Center. And for my spouses that may not know where that is, if you look up Sante Road on Google Maps, it's going to be this long street. You're going to have to go over a really bumpy road depending on which way you go, because that road over by the engineering battalion is rough. But it's going to be this long street. You're going to pass one of the battalion headquarters on your right when you're driving down. You're going to pass the Thor gym on your left at the end of the street. There's going to be a big square building right after the battalion headquarters, but before the gym on the left. It's going to have a parking lot in front of it. That is where I'm at. I'm on the second floor in room 218. I'm pretty sure the building is H2334. So if you want to try to figure out, Army building numbers on the installation.
Ask if you're a spouse that doesn't know, ask your soldier where it is.
Yeah.
He should know where that building is, and force him to ask his chain of command to figure out where that is and get in there. Because you're in there, but there's also other good resources.
Oh, yeah. Like that's too. Where a lot of our POTIF folks are. We've got our behavioral health specialists in there, like our cognitive performance specialists is in there.
Everybody should know where that building is. So it's very important to know.
Yeah. If you want to connect with me through the hub, there's QR codes everywhere. Your spouse has gotten sent multiple emails from me that has both like a picture of me so you know what I look like, and has information about the hub, can get you registered, all the things. You can come talk to me in person. You can find me at like 99% of these events. I'm putting them together, so I'm going to show up and, try to connect with as many folks as I can and also enjoy what's going on. A lot of the times I also bring my family to these events because I think that sometimes it's a little weird if there's just like the contractor lady there in the corner.
Yeah,
and
weirdo.
So
You're a weirdo.
I want to make myself like personable and, show like, yeah, I'm, normal too. And I also have a family that I deal with all this with too.
Do you know the next one that's coming up?
So right now, because of the government shutdown, we're in a bit of a pause.
Okay.
But the things that we're still planning stuff. We're just having to wait to see what's going to happen when. The next thing that I have on my calendar tentatively is going to be a wellness day with 4th POG HHC. The cool thing about this is the command team signed off on it being the place of duty for the day. So they're getting a free day with their family. I don't want to say away from work, because obviously they're still going to be here, but not having to be, behind a desk, staring at a computer all day, or working in the motor pool. They're going to get to do something fun. Breakfast is getting provided. Lunch is getting provided. They're doing quite a bit of training, but they're trying to nail down an activity that they want to do as a part of it all. So it's not just, death by PowerPoint, or, so much information getting thrown at you at once that you can't remember it all. But then after that, I know we're trying to plan out a couple holiday parties, which again, completely paid for by these funds. It's not
and they're still open to plan new ones.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
If somebody has a good idea, they want to come, there's
So
still money available.
We have events kind of on a mix of quarterly basis and monthly basis. We're starting our children's education program next month, so that's going to be a great opportunity for spouses to be able to come in and bring their kids, have their kids do an activity, a craft, and be able to learn something. We're hoping to get some cool special guests in from the actual base. I know that the base commander has come out and read for some of the SWIC kiddos, so I'm hoping we can get some stuff like that going on. Not that they're gonna know that this is the CG of the, but it's cool. And our spouse development classes are going to be coming up too. And I think a big thing too that I want to say before we're done here is I am prior service, and I'm also a soft spouse, but I don't feel like, especially now that I've transitioned, very stereotypical military contractor. And I think that's honestly one of my biggest strengths.
That sounds like what a stereotypical military contractor would say.
But if you come into my office, right, I have a kids corner. If you need to bring in your kid because you're a stay-at-home mom and you don't have regular childcare, or it's just the scenario of that day that something happens and you need to come talk to me and you can't find a babysitter, that's totally fine. I honestly prefer that. Come bring your kid in, let me meet your family. I've got a space for them to be able to color and craft and do whatever, so that way we can focus on whatever's going on and find a solution that's helpful for you without you having to be worried about oh, my kid's gonna tear this office up. Totally fine.
Right. I guess I don't know too many stereotypical military contractors that would allow that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'll give you a pass there.
But I try to be, like I said, present at these events, interacting with the spouses, and I don't want spouses to have to feel like they're having to militarize themselves in order to have access to these resources. And so I try to diversify where we do a lot of our events, basically physical locations where spouses can find me and speak to me, because not everybody wants to have to come on base even, so I try to do coffee shop meetups to speak with spouses. We do a mix of things during the duty day for spouses that are stay-at-home parents, and then stuff outside of the duty day for spouses that are working and don't have that time off during the day. So there's a healthy mix. You're not going to be able to come to everything ever, but that's the case with everything military.
But you are, if people do want to get a hold of you, you're in that building.
Yep.
And you're also blasting out emails.
Oh, yeah.
From time
all the
to
time.
Right? So don't just delete that stuff. Take a second,
Yep.
read it, and connect the people that need to be connected.
Oh, yeah.
With
And
you.
all of my emails come with flyers. So if you want to sit there and read the email, you can. But if you also want to print out the flyer or take a picture of the flyer even, you can take that home to your
So
spouse.
all these events you've got coming up.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure
all the
you're
events, all my
blasting it
contact
out.
information, all the things.
Well, Emma, I was going to take a shot at your last name, but I'll leave it up to you if you can pronounce it one time.
So my name's Emma Malone Lord. My joke is always
Lord.
it's Post Malone and then Lord Jesus Christ.
There it is.
But it's all one word. The nice thing of it is if you're trying to look me up in Global, I'm the only one.
Yeah.
There's only going to be me.
You were the only Malone Lord.
Oh, yeah.
there.
So it should be easy to find me if you're trying to email me. And if you just see, an alphabet of a last name on a door, it's probably my office.
Well, Emma, thanks for being our first guest on the PSYWAR Regimental podcast, getting resources to soldiers where they need them. Hopefully we can start building a following for you, start building a community here in the PSYWAR Regiment. I know I'm going to be pushing stuff to you all the time and pushing soldiers to you, so hopefully others take advantage of you as well. But thanks for being on with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.